Hello and welcome to Caleb Davis's philosophy research paper presentation. During this presentation, we will consider one of our discussion topics presented in our class. I will give what I believe to be the outlooks of two philosophers on the discussion topic, as well as my personal views of this topic. The discussion topic I have selected presents us with the following problem. In a nation that is based on the sanctity of individual liberty and personal freedom, should the government have the right to outlaw, for consenting adults in private places, gambling, cursing, drug use, prostitution, motorcycle riding without a helmet, or selling or drinking alcohol on Sunday? If a local community wants to keep this activity out of its county or city limits, holds a vote, and democratically passes a referendum to outlaw any of these, should the will of the local majority be respected? The first philosopher I have selected is John Stuart Mill. I would like to think that Mill would have a strong stance on this discussion topic. Based on his beliefs, I believe that he would be against outlawing these activities. I do have two reasons for these beliefs. The first reason would be the harm principle. This principle, thought of by Mill, states that an individual's liberties should be protected unless they cause harm to others. This principle limits state power against the liberties of the individual. In the discussion, it states that these activities would be done by consenting adults in private places. I don't believe any of these activities would cause harm to others. But some activities, such as drug use, may cause harm to the individual performing the activity. To quote Mill, "The only purpose for which power can be rightfully exercised over any member of a civilized community against his will is to prevent harm to others. His own good, either physical or moral, is not sufficient warrant." My second reason for Mill being against government intervention is Mill's belief of the individual liberties versus the majority. John Stuart Mill proposed that by voting in the favor of the majority, the individuals and the minority would suffer. This idea is called the tyranny of the majority. If all mankind minus one were of one opinion, mankind would be no more justified in silencing that one person than he, if he had the power, would be justified in silencing mankind. With these words, I believe Mill would not have approved of the community being able to vote out any of these activities, unless they harmed others, of course. Mill believes that once society starts meddling with individuals' activities, it creates chaos and destruction of your very life and soul. The government would be able to mandate anything without consequence, while we, the people, would suffer harsher penalties for our actions. My second philosopher chosen is John Locke. I have selected Locke because his ideologies of the individual rights are similar to those of Mill, but Locke would have been more conflicted with this discussion topic. I believe John Locke would have had to ultimately agree with the government intervention in outlawing the activities listed in the discussion. I also have two reasons for this ultimate decision. John Locke would have agreed that individuals hold the rights to participate in the activities listed. This would protect the natural rights people hold for their life, liberty, and property. Locke also felt that individuals should hold these rights if they were not giving up liberties of others, much like those of Mill's feelings towards individual liberties. Once again, none of the activities listed would interfere with the liberties of others. They would only affect the individual. The second reason, which I believe would have ultimately led to Locke's approval of government intervention, is the social contract theory. In his belief, you give consent to the society you are a part of simply by living there. Locke believes if you are born in the U.S., you consent to abide by the laws and regulations in place by the government under the social contract theory. You may not fully consent, but you do have tacit consent. Locke states in the Second Treatise of Government, "Every man that hath any possession or enjoyment of any part of the dominions of any government doth hereby give his tacit consent and is as far forth obliged to obedience to the laws of that government during such enjoyment as any one under it. Whether this possession be of land to him and his heirs forever, or a lodging only for a week, or whether it barely travelling freely on the highway." In conclusion, while both Mill and Locke have similar views on the rights and liberties of the individual, I have to agree with John Locke's view on this discussion topic. I do agree with both Mill and Locke that some liberties should be protected. I don't believe all liberties should be protected, however. In the society we live in today, it simply wouldn't make sense to protect what every individual feels is their liberty. We would never be able to appease all individuals in the society. If we give the example of Jacksonville, Florida, that is home to over 1 million people, the list would be never ending. In these cases, we would need to have the voice of the majority to set a standard to live by. I think John Locke's way of thinking is more plausible in these scenarios. He understands that while all people have natural born rights, that they must comply with their society's standards of living. We must all abide by these regulations in order to have a justified state of nature, as to avoid the once chaotic state before government. Individually, I find the concept to be a tad tricky. I think some activities such as drugs, riding a motorcycle without a helmet, and prostitution should be outlawed. Other activities such as gambling, drinking alcohol on Sundays, and cursing should be up to the individual. I don't believe laws in certain counties should prohibit alcohol sales on certain days. These are religious views, and I believe that church and state should remain separate. Cursing to me is about manners. Some people grew up learning about manners, especially in the South, and some people curse like a sailor. I think certain activities should remain individualized, while others should be outlawed by the community. And now for the most exciting slide. I would like to give credit to all of the wonderful resources I have used to conduct this research with a works cited page. I hope you have all enjoyed this presentation. Thank you so much for watching.